Good morning. So I'm talking about verses from the Dhammapada. And as I said before, it's a text that I'm really fond of. Um, it's very uncompromising. And it's a difficult text in a way because of that uncompromising nature. It doesn't pull any punches. And it's also can be difficult because some of the verses are very apt for lay people, for people who are living a household life. Other verses are definitely um, for the monk sangha, and we can end up thinking, well, what relevance has this got for us? Although I think there's always teachings in there that are relevant for us. And the other thing, of course, that's difficult about it for women anyway, is that it uses the male man and he and so on, that I know some women do find very difficult. I don't personally, because not very long ago the word mankind was used a lot, and nobody batted an eyelid, knowing that it meant people in general. But I get it. I get it. That can be difficult for some women to have that language. But anyway, if you can get over it, do your best. And if you can't, you might not want to listen to these talks. I don't know. So anyway, verse 80 is this: irrigators guide water, fletchers straighten arrows, carpenters bend wood, wise people shape themselves. And yes, I just like those old images of the expertise of people that had practiced and, um, well, were experts in their field, um, guiding the water, straightening the arrows, and yeah, and carpenters who were expert with wood. And so, what are we trying to be expert in? Well, we're trying to be experts, you could say, in our mind, um, in shaping our mind, in training our mind. And as we know, that isn't an easy thing to do. It's very difficult, and in a way, it's a lifetime's work. We could say, to do that, and it needs a lot of patience, just like any skill, or to become expert in anything does take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of practice. And that's what we're doing. We're practicing to know our mind. But what's quite interesting is it's very difficult for us because, unlike the carpenter, we don't easily see the results. It's all very well, planing a piece of wood, making up a beautiful piece of furniture or beautiful object with wood, or making arrows that you become renowned because they they fly so beautifully, and they're a work of art because they're made with these gorgeous feathers, and their flight is perfect and so on. But here we are. It's not easy to see the results of practicing the Dharma and of practicing meditation. It isn't obvious, immediately obvious. But within the Sangha, I think it does become apparent, but not quickly. It's not a quick fix. So within the Sangha, I say that because our friends, the people around us, if we invite it, they can reflect back to us the changes that they see in ourselves. And it's easier for other people to see the changes in us than it is for us to see the changes in ourselves. But at the same time, um, we do know that we are changing ourselves as well. The Dharma sort of creeps up on us. It sinks into our very being. Um, and it's a very mysterious process, I think, because it isn't as visible as somebody who becomes expert in these other ways. So how do we train our mind? Well, we train our mind through meditation, through engaging with meditation, through committing ourselves to meditation, and as I'm always encouraging us, that does need to be daily. Without a daily practice, we're not going to really see what its capabilities are, how it can transform us. So we need a daily practice of meditation. Initially we can start out with quite a short period of meditation and build up from there. Also the practice of the precepts, the 5 precepts, but also just reading about the Buddha's life, reading episodes from the Pali Canon, which is full of marvellous stories and teachings. And then we check those out for ourselves. We investigate for ourselves whether what the Buddha said had any truth in it. And yes, as we know, there are various lists that the Buddha's teaching is presented within, and those lists are very useful. There are longer lists like the Noble Eightfold Path, the 10 precepts and so on, and there are short ones like the 4 Noble Truths, and particularly the 3 lakshanas of unsatisfactoriness or suffering, impermanence, and no fixed self, or insubstantiality. And if we investigate those teachings for ourselves, we will penetrate to the truth. We'll find out whether they are true. So moving on, just saying a little bit about a few other of the verses from this section on the wise. We see that they refer to the worldly winds. They don't call them the worldly winds, but we can see them quite clearly here. So verse 81 says, "As a rock remains unmoved by storm, so the wise one remains unmoved by praise or blame." Very difficult, isn't it, when we're blamed, particularly if we're blameless in the particular circumstances. It is difficult, and that is a hard one. We somehow think that people should be fair, that things should be fair, and that we shouldn't be accused. But even if we are to blame for something, it's quite easy to want to defend ourselves in some way, want to resist being blamed. And well, I think we have a habit of, as soon as anything goes wrong, rather than take responsibility, we want to be able to blame someone, to blame somebody outside ourselves, to blame something or somebody. And it can be a very deep habit. And, we can see it. I know I've said it before, but we can see it today with the circumstances that we're in, with lockdown and with the coronavirus, wanting to blame the government for not doing things at the time they should have. And it's not that we should just forget about it all, but it's more that seeing the effect when we are hanging on to negative emotions. It's one thing saying, well, it would have been good, if the government had done a certain thing, like maybe encouraging people to wear masks in a more direct way and earlier. Maybe one has a view about that. But actually, every country is different. It's got different situations. And, we don't know. But even if we do, even if something is blameworthy, we can state it, or we can get up in arms about something. And you've got to see the effect that it has on ourselves when we do that. Does it just become something that we're chewing over all the time? Does it become a preoccupation? And what effect does that have? And does it do any good? Does it change anything? So, praise and blame. I mean, one could do a whole talk on that. And maybe I will another day. But anyway, moving on. it says, hearing the law, the wise become like a calm, unruffled lake. So the law is the Dharma. Hearing the Dharma, the wise become like a calm, unruffled lake. And yeah, I don't know about you, but I definitely have experience of this. Sometimes, maybe I'm a bit churned up, maybe my mood isn't great, and I'll read some Dharma and I'll really let it in. And it has a very big effect, a calming effect. It's like a letting go of the out breath, knowing something, that you're hearing something true. Ah, yes, a bit of sense, a bit of reality comes in there and takes away all the turbulence. And verse 83 returns to the worldly winds, and is about pleasure and pain. So the wise walk on, clinging to nothing. They are neither elated by happiness nor cast down by sorrow. The wise walk on, clinging to nothing. They are neither elated by happiness nor cast down by sorrow. And that's another thing we find very hard to do, don't we? We get very excited by anything good that happens to us. And, we have this illusion that actually we should be happy all the time. If not, something's wrong. And we shouldn't be cast down by sorrow, because we know that it's impermanent. It's difficult at times to tolerate our life in the way that we have to, in the way that we're forced to sometimes. But we can't escape sorrow, unhappiness, things going wrong in our life. And it's very helpful, I think, to remind ourselves that everything is impermanent. At the moment, I'm very aware of the tragedies that are going on in the world, and the effect they're having on the world, and maybe in a few years how I'll look back on those times. There is a great deal of suffering going on all the time, everywhere. And I think because we're at home, because we are constrained at the moment, we perhaps notice that even more. Perhaps we look at a lot of the news all the time and get very upset about what's happening. And there's nothing wrong with getting upset about it, but do what you can, and watch out for just ruminating on it all the time and getting into negative states of mind about things that you can't change. And I'm not saying we shouldn't try and change where we can. Do what you can. That's really important. Do what you can and what you feel moved to do. That's really important. So the next verse is about gain and loss. So another of the worldly winds. Neither for himself nor for others will the wise man crave sons or wealth. He will not wish to gain by others' loss. So, we're very competitive, aren't we? Wanting to gain all the time, wanting things for ourselves. And yes, our society definitely lives by gaining at others' loss. So I particularly remember an experience I had some time ago. After I'd done a year of no shopping, and I think I went into a supermarket, for the first time in a long time, because I think at that time I'd started doing shopping online, so that I wasn't ever tempted to buy things that that I liked. So I went around a supermarket, and I did feel genuinely sickened by the range of choice that there was for absolutely everything. And what I was struck by was the suffering that there is in the world, the starving people, or people that are producing goods for us to have, and maybe they're working for next to nothing, you know. So all these countries that are suffering because of us, and yeah, I was just very, very struck by that. You know, even the fact that we're called Great Britain, I feel sort of slightly ashamed about, in that, you know, we've created a lot of suffering in the world, and you know, I'm part of that. I can't just distance myself from that. I can't say, well, you know, I mean, in a way, it is nothing to do with me, but in a way, it also isn't. And yeah, it's food for thought, you know, and something to be aware of all the time. So I can you know, I can certainly try and look after the planet, not use things just for the sake of it. Um, yeah, I think it's up to all of us to consider how we use the great abundance that we have at our disposal, and to share as much as we can, to be as generous as we can. Yep. So that's a little bit about how to act with wisdom, how to notice those worldly winds when they're pulling at us, and they pull at all of us, so that we can act more ethically in the world and towards other people. That's all for today.